Hey everyone, a surprise live stream on the topic of the moment, of the day, of the week that I think a lot of people would probably appreciate. Oh gosh, this mic, I got to tighten this. I got these for Christmas. I thought, why not rock these just to show you? My daughter got these. I think they're pretty cool. Well, lights flashing. All right, before I get going, I want to tell you what this live stream is about, which is that, hey, after 10 years, 10 years, 10 years, the Securities and Exchange Commission, which is the part of the government that is authorized to regulate, supervise, and monitor markets, finally decided in all its wisdom that it should approve a Bitcoin ETF. 10 years, 10 years, 10 years. What were they doing for 10 years? Who really knows? Who really knows? I mean, it spanned 3 different presidents. So, 10 years, 10 years. Anyway, Bitcoin ETF has been approved. And now the event has passed, and I want to give you my take, my view, my opinion on what I think has happened, what is here, some updates on what the ETF numbers are. And don't worry, I'm going to take these glasses off. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to do the whole live stream with them on. I might put them on from time to time just for effect, but give you some update as to where the numbers are, what I believe we can expect over the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months and beyond. And then, hey, some theories on prices and where things might go. But before I do that, going to do very quickly this, which is my disclosure, which is that this live stream and any of the content from my company, ATG Digital Media, is not investment or financial advice. Anything you choose to do with it is on you. It's your money. It's your responsibility. Past performance does not equal future results. And capital loss is a likely or potential outcome of any trade, speculation, or investment. Next, the owners, contractors, employees of ATG Digital Media, we own, trade, transact, and investment in our content. This includes this live stream. Quick plug for my free Substack. If you want to check out my thoughts, ideas, and examples of the investments that we focus on at ATG Digital, completely free, paulmampilli.substack.com. And then if you're looking for paid subscriptions, atgdigital.media. That is the actual website, folks, the actual website. So that's not like the title. .media is like .com. You can actually go to atgdigital.media and you will arrive at a place where you can subscribe to our services, which comprise of 5 different tiers. But forget all that. Let's get to the issue at hand here. Bitcoin. Okay. Number one, Bitcoin ETF was approved on Thursday evening and began trading, actually, I believe, GBTC, which is the cause of really the Bitcoin ETF being approved because they sued the SEC. And that is what made the SEC fold and capitulate and approve the Bitcoin ETF. They started trading late, I believe, actually on Thursday evening. And then on Wednesday evening, on Thursday morning, we began official trading of Bitcoin ETFs and some numbers. So according to what I have seen on X, previously Twitter, a total of $720 million has now been deposited into a total of the 11 Bitcoin ETFs that have been approved. 11 were approved, 11, including ones from Cathie Wood's ARK Innovation, BlackRock, VanEck, which is a very large ETF company. It's a company called Bitwise. And there's, a Franklin Templeton. In other words, pretty much all the big ETF issuers all want a piece of Bitcoin. They all want a piece of Bitcoin. And the amount of trading in Bitcoin on day one, this is 1 day's worth of trading. 1 day's worth of trading was $4.6 billion dollars. I mean, that's how much money was traded in these ETFs. $4.6 billion. $4.6 billion. Now, if you've been with me from Banyan Hill to ATG, you know that originally in Banyan Hill's Profits Unlimited, um, we put in GBTC because when I went to propose, like, hey, putting Bitcoin into the portfolio, I got some pushback from people. Like, people won't know how to buy crypto. We're going to have to walk people into opening up Coinbase accounts or getting Robinhood accounts, because at the time, this was what I think in like early 2020. um it was kind of like still like, buying Bitcoin was like a little exotic, a little weird, unusual, and not that many people were in it. And Bitcoin had just gone through this brutal bear market, where it had gone from what I mean, yeah, on 20,000 to 3,500. So we put GBTC into the portfolio, and then GBTC at some point, started to trade at a massive, massive discount, right? 48% in December of last year. I did videos, wrote Substacks, informing all of you about this discount, and said on my videos that this was the best way to own Bitcoin, and that in my opinion, that this discount, it was inevitable that it would be bridged and gapped, because it was likely that the SEC was going to be forced to approve an ETF, and that, whatever you want to call it, I always hesitate to use the word prediction because the haters and the trollers, they really come for me. So I'm going to say that whatever you want to call it, theory turned out to be true. It has now happened. And if you bought GBTC at a 48% discount, I mean, you got the benefit, obviously, of the rise in Bitcoin, and then you got the benefit of that discount compressing. Where's the discount today? Well, when I looked this morning, it is just a smidge over 1%. And over the next 1 or 2 days, this discount will go to zero. And many of you might still own GBTC and might be thinking, well, what should I do? What difference does it make? Well, GBTC is one of the approved ETFs and is now trading like an ETF, which means that somewhere in the next week, that discount is going to sit somewhere near zero. On some days it'll be slightly higher, some days be slightly lower, but essentially it'll sit somewhere near zero, and it'll more or less track whatever Bitcoin prices are on a day-to-day basis. That is what GBTC will do. It will track it just like all of the other Bitcoin ETFs. In other words, there is going to be very little difference between owning GBTC and Bitcoin or owning GBTC and any of the other ETFs. These are all going to trade more or less in the same fashion from here on out. The big difference between GBTC and all of the other 10 Bitcoin ETFs is this: GBTC is charging 1.5%. 1.5% a year. So that means, let's say, if you left $1,000 in GBTC for 1 year, you would be paying them a fee of, $150. $150. And the others are charging like 0.2, 0.3%. So GBTC is going to be nearly 7.5 times more expensive. The longer you hold, these fees really start to matter, because instead of having all of that Bitcoin, you're paying Grayscale, which is the name of the asset manager that administers and manages GBTC. You're paying them 1.5% instead of paying 0.2% or 0.3%. I've been asked questions on Facebook as to which ETFs do I like, and I can't give personalized financial advice, so I can't tell you, hey, go buy this or the other. Remember, any of the recommendations at ATG Digital, they are not personalized or investment advice, because I don't know what your risk preferences are. I don't know what your income is. I don't know, your financial condition. They are recommendations to our model portfolios. You can choose to I don't know, follow it exactly, follow it roughly, not follow it, take part of it, some of it uses due diligence, do whatever you want with it. But if you look at, long term, 5 years out, will there be 11 Bitcoin ETFs? I doubt it. Why? Well, the ETF business is brutal. I mean, absolutely brutal. There's all these competitors. And if BlackRock, which has something like $6 trillion worth of assets, is charging 0.2%, they're in this business uh, to try to win it. So ultimately, the winners of the Bitcoin ETF competition are going to be the one that is most liquid. In other words, where there's the most trading, that will attract all the short-term traders because, the spreads between the bid and the ask. In other words, where you buy and sell, if you're short-term, those spreads really matter. So that one will survive. In all likelihood, the cheapest one will survive because people who are long term will gravitate to that. Who will those be? I mean, at this point, it's hard to know. In all likelihood, BlackRock will survive. And then there's also going to be folks that are really committed to Bitcoin that got into Bitcoin early, like Kathy Wood's Arc Innovation. Yeah, I mean, she's committed to Bitcoin. I mean, they were in Bitcoin very, very early. And so is it likely they're going to let go of it? I doubt it. Plus, people who own Kathy Wood's funds, they're probably going to put money into their Bitcoin ETF, and Kathy herself can buy her own Bitcoin ETF into her own funds. They won't pay a fee. There'll be no conflict of interest. So in all likelihood, that's going to survive. But in the end, my best guess is that only 3 or 4 will really survive because the fees are so low and it's expensive to run a ETF, and there is a cost to custodying all this Bitcoin and keeping it safe and showing the records and filing with the government and all of the other things that are associated with the Bitcoin is not cheap. So, hey, whoever is going to be there is in there to win it. But I mean, okay, so we got 720 million in on day one, right? There was some estimates of something that there might be as much as like 4.2 or $3 billion that might come in on day one. And before I go on this one, I do want to acknowledge Steve Dale said 1.5% of 1,000 is $15. You're correct. I was wrong. Thank you for that correction. But it is, yeah, but 1.5% is still significantly more than what everybody else is. So if you're very long term, you'd have to think that $15 would be sitting in Bitcoin. And if price predictions are real, hey, $15, every single year for 4, 5, 10, 15 years. And if Bitcoin goes to, where I project it will go, I mean, you're talking about handing over real value now, that could be much greater in the future. So going back to what I said, which is that $720 million has come into these 11 ETFs. That doesn't count I think it's 30 billion something plus that is in GBTC, which is the largest ETF that is out there. But what is the long-term amount that can go in, and what does that do to Bitcoin? So I have to go by estimates, and how accurate are these estimates? It's hard to know exactly, right? I mean, various companies, have done polls, and the estimates are that by the end of 2024, this year, that there will be between 100 and 120. I've seen as high as 150 billion. Is that going to come true? Hard to say at this point in time, because we're in day one. But long term, for sure, we will get to 100 billion, we'll get to 150 billion. And in all likelihood, at some point, we're going to get to multiple hundreds of billions of dollars. And I believe this because there is latent demand that is out there that has been looking for an easier solution than opening up a Coinbase account, worrying about crypto security, wanting to put Bitcoin into IRAs, Roth IRAs, without having to worry about all the associated issues that come with actually owning crypto, being hacked, wallets and all of these things. So a Bitcoin ETF really simplifies this. And the basic underlying premise of Bitcoin is really quite simple. It's really the most scarce, valuable asset that has global, universal, wide demand as a digital store of value. That is it. That's it. Universal, global demand as a digital store of value. 21 million coins that can ever be made in finality of Bitcoin. There are people who will say, well, Paul, there's Litecoin, there's Bitcoin Cash, and all these things that, also have these limits. Yes, but they are not Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the only crypto that has that kind of universal appeal, recognition, and demand. So all of those things may be true for this thing, but there's only one crypto that is, you go around the world. I mean, I was in Asia in 2023. I was in Vietnam. I was in Cambodia. I was in Singapore, and I was in Dubai. And I can tell you in all of these places, yeah, you can mention the word Bitcoin, no different than the US dollar, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. Universal, global recognition and demand as a digital store of value. And why is the digital store of value important? Well, because you can carry what? I mean, how much Bitcoin can I carry in this phone? Unlimited amounts, right? Unlimited amounts, right? I mean, it can sit in your Coinbase account, it can sit in some wallet. I mean, heck, you could, get somewhere. I think I have like one of those ledger things, which I've never used personally. But theoretically, you could just carry like a little zip drive with $1 billion, $3 billion, $5 billion. You can't do that with gold. You cannot do that with cash, but you can do that with Bitcoin. Why? Well, because it's not issued by any government, right? It is a mathematical cryptographic asset that is not something that is issued by any government. It is finite. It is divisible to 8 digits, which is called one sat. So it can really be subdivided where you can buy $1 worth, you can buy $10 worth, you can buy $100 worth, you can buy $1,000 worth. It's very easy to buy, and it's portable. It's portable. So universal appeal. Bottom line, we've got, again, now this way where people can easily in the United States buy Bitcoin, which means accelerating demand. Let's say, even if the low number, let's say 50 to 70 billion is right, okay, for 2024. Let's just go with the low number. Let's say the high number is 150 billion, right? Let's just say 50, 70 billion is right. 50 billion of an asset that its entire value is about $800-900 billion. Where will this $50 billion worth of Bitcoin come from? Remember, of the 21 million Bitcoin that can ever be issued, 19 and a half have already been issued. It's estimated that something like 5 or 6 million are lost. Why? Because when people first started mining Bitcoin, they had no idea. I mean, hey, some dude, what did he pay for like a pizza? Like 50 Bitcoin he paid for a pizza, the world's most expensive pizza in hindsight. People had no idea if these were going to have value. People had the idea that Bitcoin needed to become a medium of exchange, which it is not. It is primarily a store of value. It's a store of value. So people spent money on Bitcoin that I'm sure they have a lot of regrets about. But hey, where will the $50 billion worth of Bitcoin come from? I mean, I am not selling any of mine, and we're not going to sell any out of the ATG digital portfolios. And anyone that has any point of view about Bitcoin essentially has mine, which is that this is a very scarce asset with global demand, with accelerating scarcity. Accelerating scarcity. What does that mean? Accelerating scarcity means that there's 21 million, 19 and a half mined, real actual supply, let's say 5 million are lost. So you got about 15 million that's really there. So we've got 900 being produced a day today. Well, I mean, even 720 million. I mean, that's more than like the daily supply. So you got to get it out of somebody else, right? I've got to sell, you've got to sell, somebody else got to sell. Then we've got people that have like, it's like, hey, they've gamified this MicroStrategy, which is a stock in our gold tier. I mean, Michael Saylor, who's the founder of MicroStrategy, he's like, hey, he had this idea a couple of years ago, like, wait a second, this is going to be huge. At someday, this is going to be worth hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And he has purchased 6% of all of the Bitcoin that is out there. So yeah, I mean, there's not really 15 million that's out there. In real terms, again, this is a estimate, because we know that something like 70% of all the Bitcoin is being hodled. Hodled is a crypto term for hold on for dear life. In other words, never sell. Buy and just hold forever, right? Is being hodled. I mean, there's probably, in real terms, probably 3 million Bitcoin that is being floated between people, traded back and forth, back and forth. So if we need to fill these ETFs with 50 billion by the end of 2024. Yeah, where is Bitcoin price going? I mean, this is a pretty simple demand and supply question, right? I mean, it's not complicated, right? We've got, let's say, 50 billion worth of demand. We got supply of 3 million and oh, surprise, in April of 2024, in less than 3 months, the daily supply goes from 900 a day to 450. That's called the halving. The halving. Halving. Halving cuts the supply of Bitcoin down by half. Okay, so 50 billion, and that's the low estimate. 50 billion. You got to suck this from somewhere. How will that happen? Well, here's the way markets work, folks. You got enormous demand with shrinking supply. You know what that does to price? That sends it up, 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 up. Yep. Big demand, shrinking supply, up, up, up. Right? And so, many people, I see this on X, they're disappointed. Oh, hey, it saw 49, it's back at 43. Oh my God, let me sell and get out. Hey, everyone can do whatever they wish. But here are the facts, right? You got an asset with global demand, asset with global, massive, accelerating demand. Why? Because go with me and let's just say Bitcoin gets to 75, 80,000. Is there more demand at 80,000? You bet, because all the people who sold now at 43 or 42 or whatever it is, they're going to come back, right? Oh no, I should have never sold. I should have stayed in. Oh my God, if I only knew, if somebody had told me. Hey, how do I know this is the story? Because, hey, I mean, hopefully none of you were sellers at 15 because it's now at 43. It's more than doubled. It's more than doubled. So the fact pattern says, hey, I believe 50 billion is a kind of low number. Maybe I'll be wrong. Again, not financial or investment advice, my opinion, my judgment, my view of the world. But let's just say it's 100 billion. Let's just say over the next 3 years is $300 or $400 billion. Where's the price of Bitcoin go? Where is the Bitcoin going to come from? Where will it come from? Michael Saylor at MicroStrategy is not going to sell. I'm not planning to sell. Hopefully you're not planning to sell. Plus, imagine if somebody else says, hey, look at Michael Saylor. His position is up, by the way, $2 or $3 billion. They say, hey, let's do what he did. Let's copy him. And they decide they want to buy 5% of Bitcoin. What's going to happen to the price? You see, Bitcoin is the ultimate scarcity game. It's the ultimate scarcity game. It's like a game of chicken. For sure, some number of people who got in very early with $7 costs and $5 costs and $3 costs, $100 costs, they're going to shave a tiny bit off and sell. But most of us, we can get in it. $5 or $10. I mean, I think like when I originally recommended Bitcoin, I think it was like what? I mean, like $4,000 or $5,000. So it's 8x. I've gone on YouTube and said, hey, I think Bitcoin 1 million is sooner rather than later. Sooner rather than later. Kathy Wood was on yesterday, and you can go to my X account. I reposted what she said. She said that her bear case for Bitcoin was 258,000. Very specific. Kathy's always got very dialed in numbers. And the middle case was 650,000, and her bull case was 1.5 million. Right, and I think the time frame was by 2030, right? So wide time frame, but still at 7 years out. And yeah, I mean, 7 years out to go from, let's say, to the bull case from what, 43 to 1.5 million, or even to the bear case, that's 6x. I mean, it can either come slowly, it can come a little bit at a time, it can come in highly violent form, or it could jump. Either way, it kind of like leaves you like, hey, you want the chance at this, you got to be in. You got to be in. You got to suck it up and take the volatility. Take days like today. Maybe you're disappointed. Maybe you made bets that it would be at 60 today or something. I mean, there's a little bit of a sell the news thing, but truthfully, there was never a buy the rumor. I theorized that the buy the rumor move would get it to somewhere near 58 or 60,000, and then it would track back to 43, 42,000. Truth is, we never really had a buy the rumor move. And that will tell you that not that many people got in. And even, when I go and look at how much BlackRock seeded their Bitcoin fund, because they definitely bought ahead of it. I mean, they would be dumb not to. They're not stupid. They don't want to lose money. The goal of, the Bitcoin ETF is for them to make money, not lose money. So, I mean, they bought a few $100 million worth. But if 50 billion is right, if 70 billion is right, if 300 billion is right over the next 3 to 5 years, yeah, they don't have any Bitcoin to fulfill it. And, they're all required, by the way, to prove and show that they own this Bitcoin. They can't say, oh, I have a derivative, I have a synthetic, I have blah, blah, blah. No, no, no. They have to show actual Bitcoin. They have to show actual Bitcoin. It's going to be audited. So bottom line, the event number one for 2024 for Bitcoin is now in the books. Bitcoin ETF. Bitcoin ETF is approved. Now we're going to see estimates come out daily as to how much is going into Bitcoin. Then, as these numbers start to ramp up, people will say like, whoa, this is really starting to roll here. And then we've got the halving. This in April of 2024, at where supply, will crash. Supply will crash, right? In all likelihood, into what is going to be the biggest part of the demand. And why do I say that? From having been in asset management for like a decade plus, investment managers do not just go all in all at once. They won't put a 5% position on in one day. They build positions up over many weeks, over many months. Why? Well, I mean, hey, just like this, if somebody went all in yesterday and there's a 10% move, they feel foolish. They cause volatility in their fund. Now they have the potential to lose clients. So they will scale in over time. And what does that do? It sets up for really a nice glide path where, hey, when there are some days or weeks, there's huge demand comes in, maybe around some event, maybe it's inflation, maybe there's some macro event, some jumps will come in. There will be up and down volatility. But if 50, 70 billion is going to come in, it's going to happen over 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 months. And then from there, once they have a 2% position, they'll be comfortable with the 3% position or a 5% position. So it's still going to require a little bit of patience. Everyone, got super excited for the Bitcoin ETF, at least among, the people who own it. I can tell you for a lot of people, they're just kind of like getting into Bitcoin. They're just learning about it. So, on X, previously Twitter, people always point to various things that say, it's so early. In other words, the vast majority of people have no idea how many Bitcoin there are going to be. They have no idea what the halving is. They have no idea about anything. They've kind of heard a little bit about Bitcoin. The more sophisticated investors are looking at Bitcoin as a hedge against the US dollar, as a hedge against inflation, as a hedge against the monetary system, going kaput in some way, and where the crypto system still, allows other people looking at it as a transformation in terms of, human society and the use of digital money. So there's a lot of things in play here. Bottom line, though, it is a scarcity game, and there's only one Bitcoin. And in the world, from my experience, from my research, from everything I'm seeing, there's going to be way more demand than there's ever going to be Bitcoin. So sooner rather than later, it's my opinion, we're going to be at 1 million. And then people will look back and say, oh, I shoulda, I coulda, I woulda. Yeah. Okay. That's it. That's my live stream for today. Hope you liked it. Hey, subscribe to the channel because I'll be doing these without notice, because I try to do these when there's something to say, something to bring to you that's useful. So subscribe and see all of y'all soon. Bye.